Originally, I planted all of this as a hedge for privacy, to give the animals something to eat, and as a windbreak. Everything that I have planted here that survived is aggressive. It's invasive. And by invasive and aggressive, what they mean is that it spreads. They want to make babies. Once they themselves are healthy enough, what they're going to do is they're going to send out rhizomes, they're going to drop seeds, or their branches are going to lay down and they'll root in the ground from branches. Be super selective about what you put in your spots that have enough water and enough fertilizer for things to begin to spread. You want things to spread that are going to be lucrative. You want something that you're going to be able to take those seedlings and sell them. What I wanted to explain to you is how to control those. They are going to need to be cut. Anywhere that you don't want that plant to grow, you're going to need to go out and harvest it. So it still requires a little bit of work on your part, but so does anything that needs to be harvested. So we go out, and if we have shoots coming up in a space that we don't want it, we go out and we cut them. Most plants cannot recover quickly enough to take over in one season. The sea buckthorn is coming in really strong, but what we have on the outside of the fence there is from 2 years worth of growth. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to harvest it all, because by having it grow down into the road, the odds of it getting sprayed by the road maintenance crews are pretty high. I want to harvest it while I can. Next year, earlier in the season, I'm going to go out and harvest little seedlings and put them up for sale on Craigslist. And anything that you can get that is naturalized to your area is going to most likely be aggressive. It may not be invasive, it may not want to take over your whole property this year, but it's something that will spread. With these plum trees, they make a really good shelter belt, windbreak, and then their plums are something I can make jam and fruit leather and dehydrated fruit from in the fall, and we think they're beautiful. These ones are very good for horses, goats, rabbits, people, and my soil. See that? That is a thorn. I know I've already shown you guys my comfrey. It's a bee plant, but it's also a pretty big permaculture plant. It is exceptionally easy to get these rootings to take off. If the roots don't get cut, they just get more beautiful. They get wider, they get taller, they get bushier, but they don't actually spread. The official comfrey is more for human consumption if you're going to use it as a medicinal. The Russian Bocking is more for permaculture because it's bushier, it's taller, there's more foliage on it. But people in your area are going to be looking for comfrey roots, and they'll be willing to pay for these rather than having to pay for shipping. So this is something else you can harvest. All right, so this is a Siberian pea shrub. These ones are nitrogen fixers again, which means that they're pulling nitrogen out of the air, putting it into the soil, and they have these little bean pods on them, and if you have chickens and things that live underneath your Siberian pea shrubs, they will eat all the seeds and you won't have any seedlings come up. But they're high in protein. The seeds are. These once again have thorns. They're fantastic for a shelter belt, a hedge, for predators or other animals or intruders. And in the spring, before they leaf out, you can take cuttings from them and just stick them in the ground. I have one right here that I'll show to you. This is a Siberian pea shrub that I cut in the backyard and just stuck in the ground where I knew there would be water. What I want to be able to do over time is to harvest my own small branches off of my property and use it to go through a wood mulcher for those places where I do need mulch, so that I don't have to purchase mulch anymore. The reason that I want black locust on my property is because they make excellent fence posts. You can put them directly in the ground and they don't rot. They don't need to be treated, and they'll last a really, really long time. They make good firewood because they're a hardwood. And in some areas where you have a lot of water, they will be invasive, so you would have to go out and clip the trees at the bottom or dig them up and put them somewhere else. And you would just have to be aware that that's something that you would have to do for maintenance. And for me, I'm just as happy to go out and clip little trees and feed them to my goats as I am to buy hay from somebody else to feed to my goats. So this is my black locust that's in a good spot. It has enough water, and you can see at the top that it has blossoms, which is really fun. Those are bee food. Bees really like black locust. And this one is spreading. I have I have 3 new trees from that tree in the past 8 years. So it took that long to have it start to form a little bit of a grove. But as the soil gets healthier, again, these are also nitrogen fixers. Black locust is nitrogen fixing, which means it takes atmospheric nitrogen and puts it in the soil. And they have nodules that create relationships with other plants in the area. And they're just really beautiful. So this one's making it, which means that I know that for this particular plant, it's a water thing. Once they really start to propagate, I don't know how long that will take. Maybe it'll be in 20 years, but at that point I would have little trees to sell to people. For right now, I'm just grateful for them. They're putting nitrogen in the soil. They're giving me a windbreak, and they're just giving me so much. All right, these are elderberries. And these are struggling a little bit because in the beginning we had an animal that got to them and kind of beat them down to the ground. And so they had to start back from the roots, which shows that they are aggressive. They wanted to live. I have now planted, these are not from rain tree, I've now planted rain tree elderberries in my backyard where I know that the soil is good, they'll get enough water, they have what they need, and they have a better flavor. And so these guys can stay here, and if we ever get a harvest, that would be great. If it doesn't, it's okay, because if it spreads a little bit and it keeps coming on, it can be part of the shelter belt. These are poisonous, the leaves are poisonous, so this would be one of the only, maybe the only plant besides rhubarb that I have planted that you want to do your research on, because if they're wild elderberries, the fruit themselves can be poisonous and you have to cook them before you can eat them. So once again, always do your research on what it is you choose to plant in your property, whether it be invasive and you want it to be invasive, or whether it be medicinal but it's poisonous in some forms. You want to make sure you're well informed. Sorry guys, I just can't get over how much I love comfrey. All you have to do is get a little water to them, and then they're just so beautiful. Morning, honey.
Hi.
You okay?
So you got... I'll have more nipples. Triple lambs bottles.
Oh, that was dumb, huh?
Yeah. I told you last night. So am I weaning them?
So this is an example of something that 1, hasn't spread, 2, has nasty berries, and 3, they're short enough they don't really do me any good here. So this is one that I have not replanted. I have not tried to start new starts off of it because I don't care about it. These are cherries. I'm trying to make sure and show you guys the progression of the fruit. These are honeyberries, but most of them are gone because Kai ate them all. Poplars and willows, all you have to do is cut a branch off and stick it in the ground where there's some water consistently, and it will take over. It will become a big tree, and pretty much that's all you have to do. So very simple and very controlled. It doesn't spread on its own. I have to spread it. With these guys, they're supposed to be very aggressive spreaders, and I believe it's supposed to be from seed, but it has never done that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and propagate it, not the way I do poplars and willows, but in my own little propagation chamber in my house. And the way that you do that is you cut off a branch, you remove all the leaves, and then you stick it in a pot of soil inside a clear closed container. It keeps the humidity very high, and it allows those little rootlets to develop on the actual bark of the tree. With some plants it works very quickly and very easily, and with others it doesn't, but until you experiment you don't know. Now, what I need to do is not lose my clippers out here. So, alright, so you want to think about these guys as if they were fresh cut flowers. You don't want to leave their ends exposed. If I'd been thinking a little bit further ahead, I would have taken a cup of water out with me for these guys. So these are a little longer than they need to be. I don't know if they'll make it. I have no idea. I've never tried this before. But I'm just going to try it. I'm going to put them in my little pots in here, and all that's in there is just water. I could use a rooting material, a rooting stimulator. It's like a hormone. So I'm just curious, it's going to take some time for these guys to leaf out if they're going to. I would dearly love to be able to get these all over my property, but as I said, I haven't been able to get them to set any seedlings from fruit because of the ducks. The ducks will eat any little tiny delicate thing in their path, and since they keep weeds out from under the Nanking cherries in the backyard, they also keep the seedlings out because the seedlings start, but then the ducks eat them. What I have in here right now is goji berry, which is a little bit sensitive, a little cold sensitive for my area, but that doesn't mean it won't do fine once it gets started. Again, the benefit to doing any of these things is that instead of paying somewhere between $2 and $60 for a tree, you can propagate your own trees and fill your own property with exactly what you want to fill it with without spending any money. And for those and you'll be a blessing for those in your area, because you can take cuttings for them and sell them cuttings for cheaper than what they can get online. And you already know that it's acclimated for your area. So that's what it looks like. And there's a little bit of water in the bottom, and I need to water these guys regularly. And then I leave this on. The reason I like the clear tub is because a little sunlight can still get in. Just because they're cuttings doesn't mean they don't need a little bit of sunlight. They don't need to be out in the full sun, but just they need something to shine through. And so the reason I like invasives and aggressives is that I don't have to fight their battles for them. They will fight their battle for themselves, and they will make enough babies that I can spread them to the rest of the property. And when I have as many plants on my property as I want, I harvest those babies that are not where I want them. I feed them to my goats. I could put them through a wood chipper, or I can take and put them in my hotbeds instead of having to purchase and bring some other kind of material onto my property to plant my gardens, to, you know, turn on my wood burning stove, any of these things. And for some of those plants, like the black locust, they will actually grow me straight, moisture impervious fence posts. What's not to love? So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you later. The official comfrey is more for human consumption.